So guys, it ain't deep, but it's real. And veganism really is fractious and fragmentary. I am self-critical. I do genuinely examine myself and criticize myself whenever I try to cooperate or collaborate with another vegan activist and it doesn't work out. Or sometimes I meet and start talking to a vegan activist and I conclude from my side, I don't want to work with this person, I don't want to know this person. And I examine, well, why? Why did I conclude that? When did I decide this is somebody I don't want to work with, this is someone I want to avoid rather than someone I want to cooperate with? Or sometimes the decision is made on the other side. That person decides they don't want to talk to me, they don't want to work with me, which is fine. We all have to make those decisions. But I think about, well, why did that person come to that conclusion? Was it for reasons that are really valid, or we're just happen to be incompatible? They're interested in something I'm not interested in, vice versa. There are some vegan activists and their methodology is completely built around weight loss or heart attacks or the rates of cancer or bodybuilding. There's health-based. There were other activists and their methods would alienate me or exclude me for other reasons, and that's fine. I mean, okay, to some extent it's fine. To some extent, I can criticize their methods. They can criticize mine. And through the mutual criticism, steel sharpens steel. Hopefully we all get sharper from this interaction. Hopefully we all, examine and learn from the advantages and disadvantages of the different methods being used. It's fine. But ultimately, as I said to this person again and again, look, imagine if you were in my position. You had this experience. You make videos talking about it. You have different people writing to you every day. You wrote to me, and I made the decision based on what you told me, based on this interaction with you, that you are someone I never wanted to hear from again.
À-bas-le-ciel.
Two of my old slogans from this channel I have to evoke at the start of this video. The first is, it ain't deep, but it's real. What I present in this video you may think is quite shallow. In some ways, I've got to tell you, it's deep to me. It resonates with, it represents, it echoes deep recurring problems I deal with in the vegan movement. And just as I figure out how to communicate with people in 21st century digitized Western society, where there are barriers of language and culture involved, but there's also the new culture of the internet with its tremendous potential to connect activists to one another, to connect people with like-minded interests, And the second slogan I was going to mention was the statement from my old blog, Vegan Mind Tricks. On my blog, Vegan Mind Tricks, I commented that veganism is fractious and fragmentary. That, we can't talk about it as a unified movement. We really have to recognize how profoundly divided and divisive veganism is, even from the perspective of people inside the movement, or the people who have the most clearly espoused, political and ecological and ethical aspirations for the future of the movement. It is still genuinely fractious and fragmentary. It is genuinely difficult to get vegans to work together, and we reach out across these divisions and try to find people we have common ground with, common interests with, try to make something positive happen. So this is message one in this correspondence. Quote, "Hey, I just discovered your YouTube channel and I love it. I'm vegan in progress and now trying to understand the problems with domesticated animals and what to do. It requires a ton of humility to admit our mistakes. I just wanted to ask you about Sam Harris's criticism. I don't understand what acrasia is. I tried to Google it, but found no results. Can you help me? Thank you for what you are doing and fostering critical thinking. P.S. What are you holding R2-D2 in your videos? Is this a microphone? ? Best Delphine." Now, from both the style and the substance of this email, I did assume that this person speaks English as their second language or their third language. And in all of my written communication with it that follows, I am actually simplifying my language and style a bit to reply. Thank you. I hope you'll consider joining the Patreon group for $1 a month. There are free t-shirts involved. So this really marks the moment in my life when this conversation happened to happen. At this time, I just printed up a stack of t-shirts, really to thank people who've supported the channel. I just recently posted these images letting you guys know that t-shirts are on the way. And one of my reasons for doing this is that I really do appreciate, I really do want to give thanks to some people who've been supporting the channel for years. And so the t-shirts will indeed be free. It says here they're free aside from shipping and handling. Even that's not accurate. I'm not even going to charge shipping and handling. I'm just going to charge postage. The cost of the postage stamp is the cost. So anyone can check that online. If it takes me $5.25 to send it to you, depending on where you are and the weight of the package, that's what I'll ask you to pay, but nothing else. I know that on the internet, some people interpret the term shipping and handling really loosely, and they actually come up with a price that makes a profit for whoever's making the t-shirt involved. Anyway, so back to this conversation. I reply briefly by saying, 1. Acrasia is basically a fancy term for being weak-willed. Its etymology is linked to its appearance in one sentence by Aristotle, referring to the feeling of knowing the right thing to do, but being too weak to do it. 2. Yes, the white sphere is a microphone. Here's the link to Patreon. There's the link. Thanks for your time. I'll put an image on screen here of, a semi-academic article about this concept of acrasia. If you Google the word, this is exactly the sort of thing you're going to find. Or if you Google the word plus Aristotle or plus etymology, you can see that the summary I've given here is indeed a reasonable one. Delphine writes back to me, marketing advice. Never ever start a conversation by asking for money. It puts people off right away. Try to be more genuine, even if you don't mean it, period. Strategy is key, period. Second, the R2-D2 microphone thing was a joke. Third, I strongly disagree with the concept of acrasia. It's not about weakness, it's about picking your battles, period. Are you perfect? ? Then you can judge, period. Veganism is caring about every being and thinking they're all equal and avoiding suffering. Therefore, vegans shouldn't buy clothes made by underpaid workers or in bad conditions. For example, vegans shouldn't buy clothes from H&M. 90% of the vegans I've told that to got really angry. Be careful not to appear morally self-righteous. It doesn't work. People who really know me or really know this channel, people who've been longtime fans, will probably already have been laughing when I first read this out, because it is peculiar that almost every sentence of this I disagree with. I deeply disagree with her statement, try to be more genuine even if you don't mean it. That, to me, I'm not mad at her. It's not something I'd want to debate or discuss, but this shows she's someone who is really a profoundly different person from me. This is someone I don't want to be friends with. This is someone whose values and whose philosophy of life is very different from mine. No, I'm really honest on YouTube. I'm really honest about my personal life, about my politics, about my philosophy, and everything else. I'm honest with you about the etymology and meaning of the term acrasia. And, she doesn't know it. I'm guessing she just hasn't seen that many videos on my channel. But what she says about veganism and what she says about factory workers, what she says about, mass manufacturing of clothing, I actually disagree with every single point made here, sentence by sentence. And I have already made videos discussing why that is. I've also, by the way, done research on the garment industry, especially in Cambodia. So it's most likely this is something I know more about than she does. So there are many, many things she doesn't know that we happen to disagree about. I'm putting back on screen here again the direct contrast. She says, I disagree with the concept of acrasia. It's not about weakness. It's about picking your battles. Now, again, I also really dislike and disagree with her saying, are you perfect? ? Then you can judge. That sounds like the position of someone who's perhaps deeply Christian, this judge ye not, lest ye be judged attitude. But before that, no, this is just false. To claim this about the meaning of the word acrasia, you can look on screen here. Yes, it really is about weakness and impetuosity, giving into your impulses when your rational mind tells you you ought to do something else. Now, I've read this in a friendly tone of voice, and whether or not she wrote it in a friendly tone of voice, I am willing to take it that way. I mean, this kind of opens with a rather abrupt reproach against me, so-called marketing advice, and telling me that I missed the punchline of her joke that was written in broken English. It's true, I did not have the sense that was a joke, but so be it. But for me, really the red flag here, as I said later in this correspondence, is just her response to this. Look, I've spent time with all sorts of people all over the world. When I was in Laos, I spent time with people who had no formal education, rice farmers, and the sons and daughters of rice farmers. And very often in Laos, the people who did have formal education, the value of that formal education was very, very low. And even if you become highly literate in Laotian, there may not be published books about any of the things that really matter in life. When you're only literate in a small language like that, you have access to very few books, very few newspapers, magazines, or what have you. Literacy and formal education is of very different significance in languages like Laotian and Cambodian. People who grow up with stark disadvantages. If someone like that wrote to me saying these things about, Aristotle's concept of acrasia, that's one thing. This is someone who has a master's degree and a PhD, both from elite English language universities in England. So this is to me a bit of a red flag. So the reply I sent to her at this juncture was very brief and very simple. And I think she could have looked back at her own message and understood why I said this to her at the time. I said simply, quote, "Never write to me again." She then writes back, as you see here on screen, quote, "Your open-mindedness and your kindness are so high, comma, how do you handle it? I'll write whatever the blank I want, and you will have to block my email address to stop me from writing to you. Smiley face, I pity the people who give money to you, period." So now again, this is someone with a graduate degree from the University of Cambridge, with another graduate degree from the London School of Economics. This is someone with an elite education who was allegedly not capable of Googling something and looking up something that is very well documented, very well researched, and very widely published about in English, namely, Aristotle. So I don't know what's going on here. But my conclusion was simply, this isn't somebody I want to talk to. So I reply, "Tell you what, you go to Laos, do humanitarian work. Go to Cambodia, do humanitarian research. Make 900 videos on YouTube talking about your experiences, political aspirations, personal life, etc. See who wants to talk to you. Choose whom you'd like to be friends with out of the people, hundreds or thousands, who respond positively, or just with curiosity, to your videos, your written articles, your shared experiences and aspirations. You'll have your pick, and I, likewise, must choose. Even if you receive as few as 5 messages a day from fans or strangers, which ones you reply to is a choice. I have no other source of income. People who want to talk to me pay $1 per month, less than you'd pay to drink coffee with a friend, and that's what makes the channel possible, not to mention the free t-shirts. I will repeat myself one last time, never write to me again." She replies, "Are you seeking professional help? ? My initial message was genuine, and you replied with such aggression and violence. I hope you use the money to see a therapist and a doctor. You don't know anything about my life, and you don't need to know all the humanitarian work I've done. I don't brag about it because I'm not a pretentious and condescending piece of shit. I will repeat myself again. I will write if I want to. It's not against the law. Block me if you can't handle people who disagree with you." So this is an adult woman with a PhD, and this is how she writes to me. I'd point out in the first paragraph here, she says, "My initial message was genuine." I think it's really worth asking, why were her later messages not genuine? And she's aware in writing this, by this contrast, that her initial message was genuine and her later ones were not. And the second paragraph brings up one of the great themes of all of my interactions with white, Western, English-speaking people. The trap of people demanding to know, don't you know who I think I am? Who do you think you are? It's a really sad, really counterproductive, and really negative set of attitudes here, coming from someone who started this correspondence by saying she's not even vegan yet. She's just started getting into veganism. She's in transition to being a vegan. She's some kind of new vegan. She's just discovered my channel, and she's a fan. And she thanked me for helping people engage in so-called critical thinking. And you see how quickly you get into this kind of really, really negative attitude. All right, so I write back to clarify, but again, to some extent, the language barrier may be an issue here, but she got a master's degree and a PhD in English, so, I can't dumb it down too much. Quote, "Are you seeking professional help? My initial message was genuine, and you replied with such aggression and violence." No, I didn't. I replied by telling you about free t-shirts. You said that you were a fan of the channel. I wrote back telling you that you could get a free t-shirt. I also told you that you can join my Patreon to talk to me like everyone else. Reread the messages I've sent you. I never said one word that was insulting to you, and you, on the contrary, have said many things that were insulting to me. Please see the image attached about the meaning of the word akrasia. You have an MA and a PhD from 2 very famous English language universities. Please compare what I said about the word akrasia to what you said, and then look at this article. What you wrote to me contained many red flags that you are, simply, not someone I want to talk to. Your statements about akrasia really are a red flag, as we say in English, especially given your level of education. The meaning of the word is, indeed, rooted in its usage by Aristotle. Regarding, quote, you don't know anything about my life, close quote, I know enough to make the decision that I made. I explained to you precisely how I made this decision. I asked you to sympathize with the fact that you would be in a similar situation if you made 900 videos about your life and your research and your humanitarian work, etc., and then you were receiving messages from just 5 people per day who wanted to talk to you. I came on the internet to make friends, to make colleagues, and with the hope that we, together, could do something positive for the future of the vegan movement. I was encouraging you both, 1, to think about the situation from my perspective, i.e. sympathetically, and also, 2, I was encouraging you to do something similar yourself. Good luck. So guys, it ain't deep, but it's real, and veganism really is fractious and fragmentary. I am self-critical. I do genuinely examine myself and criticize myself whenever I try to cooperate or collaborate with another vegan activist and it doesn't work out, or sometimes I meet and start talking to a vegan activist and I conclude from my side, I don't want to work with this person, I don't want to know this person, and I examine, well, why? Why did I conclude that? When did I decide this is somebody I don't want to work with, this is someone I want to avoid rather than someone I want to cooperate with? Or sometimes the decision is made on the other side. That person decides they don't want to talk to me, they don't want to work with me, which is fine. We all have to make those decisions. But I think about, well, why did that person come to that conclusion? Was it for reasons that are really valid, or we're just happen to be incompatible? They're interested in something I'm not interested in, vice versa. There are some vegan activists and their methodology is completely built around weight loss or heart attacks or the rates of cancer or bodybuilding. There's health-based. There were other activists, and their methods would alienate me or exclude me for other reasons, and that's fine. I mean, okay, to some extent it's fine. To some extent, I can criticize their methods. They can criticize mine, and through the mutual criticism, steel sharpens steel. Hopefully, we all get sharper from this interaction. Hopefully, we all examine and learn from the advantages and disadvantages of the different methods being used. It's fine. I do criticize myself on this matter. But ultimately, as I said to this person again and again, look, imagine if you were in my position. You had this experience. You make videos talking about it. You have different people writing to you every day. You wrote to me, and I made the decision based on what you told me, based on this interaction with you, that you are someone I never wanted to hear from again. I think most people would have just blocked her and never replied. And to some extent in real life, if you're talking to people face to face, they may just stand up and walk out of the coffee shop and never talk to you again. As was mentioned earlier in this video, I am the kind of person who really wants to be honest on YouTube, who really wants to be real on YouTube, because frankly, as soon as we take a step off that path from nonfiction into fiction, I just don't see the point of the whole exercise. I just wanted to add a sort of footnote here that there's a whole separate question of the character of the type of person who chooses to become vegan in the year 2018. That's indirectly raised by this video. I've discussed it in many other videos before. I discussed it in written form back when I had a blog. What sort of character in this cultural context, in this political context, makes the decision to commit to veganism as a lifestyle, as an ecological, ethical, ideological cause? Obviously, there are certain traits that we're encountering much more often when we try to organize vegans, when we meet other people who happen to be vegan, or when we're actively seeking out the company of other vegans. And, as a larger and larger percentage of the population becomes vegan, those stereotypes will hold to a lesser and lesser extent. If you believe veganism is for everybody, I've said this many times before, then that means you don't just believe it's for left-wing people. You believe it's really for everybody, including people who have nothing in common with you and nothing in common with their fellow vegans. But to be sure, I think there's a certain kind of vehemence, a certain kind of steadfastness, a certain kind of inflexibility of character, a certain sense of justice and injustice that, maybe especially amongst new converts to veganism. That's this woman is. This is someone who just recently decided she wants to transition to veganism. Maybe some of these traits we're seeing here you wouldn't see if, by contrast, you were talking to people who had just recently decided to convert to Buddhism, or people who had just recently decided to join the Republican Party or the Democrat Party or some other political cause. So guys, within the last few months, my vision and my plans for what I'm doing as a vegan activist have really changed. I've enrolled in a culinary college to study baking and pastry and get more involved with food services and food production as a platform for vegan activism. That's going to change the type of people I meet and the type of interactions I have. Many of you may imagine that if only you could get out of your current line of work and get a PhD and get into academia, that the grass would be so much greener on the other side of the hill. I choose this example to share with you guys for many different reasons. But one of them is that I've talked to some vegans lately who really imagined that they would improve their lives dramatically if they went from street activism, food-based activism, health-based activism, various forms of activism, or even legal activism, if they could graduate from that into working within the halls of academia with what they imagine to be a higher caliber of person, people who are, armed with PhDs. And what this interaction shows you, look guys, fundamentally, people are people. There is a great descriptive equality to human beings. Professors are not so different from their students. Frankly, jail wardens are not so different from the prisoners. Police are not so different from the people upon whom they have to enforce the law. In many ways, as you get more familiar with human nature, you see the ways in which we're all equal and we all struggle with the same problems. In this case, this is a highly educated person who's obviously struggling with the same overwhelming emotions that stereotypically teenagers on Twitter and Tumblr wrestle with. And it's another case where we see just how fractious and fragmentary veganism can be.
À-bas-le-ciel.